Welcome to Discovery. My name is Alex Scott. I'm standing here in our brand new auditorium. Yeah, it's currently being built, right? Framed, painted, we have heat, and we are gearing up and getting excited for the March 21st launch. We have a couple resources that we want to give you to help you grow in your relationship with God. The first is the Exodus booklet. This will tell you about this relentless generosity initiative, and it'll tell you where we've been and where we're going. And then on the back side of it is a 50-day devotional that help you dive in to Exodus. You can grab that online, or if you come to our in-person service at 10 a.m., we'll have some books there for you. In that book is a commitment card. See, this is a 2-year journey, and we're at the midway point. So on February 7th, we're going to have a recommitment Sunday. Maybe you're brand new to Discovery, or you didn't make a relentless commitment. This is the time to hop on and be a part of things. Or you've grown in your faith or your finances, and you want to push and accelerate your gift, or you want to commit to finishing strong. Wherever we are, we hope that you participate on February 7th. We'll even have coffee for you that morning in person. The last thing is this. Expect this to be in your mailbox sometime this week. If you don't get one, reach out to us. Man, this is helpful for this series, but also for the next series called Huddle Up. This will have a commitment card in it, but it'll also have some other resources, some things that we're going to do to help gear up and get ready for the launch of this facility. Let's dive into Rodney and Christine Smith's story.
My name's Christine Smith, and I've been married to this guy here for 26 years. And
26 great years.
Yeah, great years. And we have 2 children, Kylie, who's 18, soon to be 19 this coming March, and Garrett, who is a 16-year-old young man learning to drive and scaring us to death. And we have lived in the Pittsburgh area probably for since 2008, so that's 12 years, but -4, we lived in China during that. Discovery was a big draw for our family for a lot of reasons. When we first moved here, we were looking for a church that was similar to our church back in Colorado, where obviously Bible-based church, a young family member base where we could have a lot in common with other young families trying to raise children and grow them up in the Christian home. Found Discovery through Kid Quest and a summer camp that they put on at North Boundary Park, and after that we became members. It was really important to us to have our kids come to church every Sunday and be involved, and for us to grow our family.
The outreach programs, things like the Kids Quest, the Extravaganza, Night to Remember, all those types of things, it really drew us to Discovery, and we've enjoyed it ever since. The building it's just a place, right? But we want it to be a central hub almost that everybody can come to, more or less anytime during the week. It's not going to be just for us, it's going to be for the whole community. And again, going back to the things that drew us to Discovery was those community connection, and doing something that's going to benefit the community, draw it in, but all in the name of the Lord. It's going to be awesome. In a funny way, we were actually excited about having the opportunity to contribute in a way that made sense for our family, to the Relentless campaign, and really have that chance to give back. But it was something we talked about as a family, and we kind of made the decision as a family, and we're all in it together.
Yeah, we see a lot of potential, and it's exciting to see Discovery finally have a church home that we can actually do whatever we want throughout the weekend and host parties, and we can really help the community in various ways and be a support and show them God's love. And that's the main reason for our home. There's so much fulfillment in getting involved and being a part of something this big and that's going to reach thousands of people eventually, over the course of the years to come. And it's just going to be a place to know one another. It's not going to be too large where you don't know your church family. You're going to be able to come in here and know people that you're familiar with, and you're going to feel like you're a part of something that's bigger than just your own family. And you're going to have that support group, and you're going to feel the love of others and feel the love of God. And it's going to be a place where you want to have your family and come and be a part of more than just on Sundays.
One of the things I actually really liked about the Relentless campaign and the way we did it, we obviously need money to pay for this place, but to me it's less about the money, and it was about the fact that we were trying to get 100% involvement and get everybody in the boat, regardless of how much of the boat you wanted to kind of make a commitment about. Just being in the boat was the most important thing to me, and I'd love to see us reach that 100% commitment goal.
In November of 2019, Discovery began a courageous journey of pursuing God like never before in our faith and through our generosity. And through much prayer and seeking God's direction, the Lee team and the staff of the church put before us a bold vision for Discovery's future that we called Relentless. As our church home gets nearer and nearer to completion, and we prepare to throw open wide the doors to our community, and we feel a close connection to Moses as he faithfully followed God and he led the people out of slavery and into the promised land. God is now calling us to faithfully, to relentlessly follow him as we lead hundreds, maybe thousands of people who right now are enslaved by sin, and to lead them to Jesus, the one who can truly set them free. Therefore, we won't stop. We won't stop asking God what he has next for us. Over the next 5 weeks, we're going to dig deep into the book of Exodus.
Well, it's great to be back up here, or I guess on here. It's been a couple years since I had the chance to speak at Discovery, so I'm excited to be here. We were at the RLA last time I did this, and I've never done this on camera before. And Kristen, this is a first for you, too.
This is my first time ever teaching. Bryan and I, we do a lot together. We live together, we work together, but this is the first time ever teaching together. So Matt asked us, and just when I thought I couldn't spend any more time with you, we do. But honestly, we're really excited to be here today, sharing about some of our favorite moments from Discovery's past and our excitement for Discovery's future.
Yeah, we should probably give you a little bit of background on who we are, because probably a lot of you are maybe newer around here, don't even know us. We're Bryan and Kristen Gratton, and we've been around Discovery, I think, as long as Todd's been alive, maybe. Maybe. No, it's been 18 years. We know Todd's a little bit older than that, but it's been 18 years. We were young, and I had hair when we started Discovery, which is super exciting. I started as the associate pastor here, and Kristen was on staff as the office manager. And we've seen a lot happen at Discovery through the years. Buy land, sell land, move from a movie theater to the Regional Learning Alliance, and now here at the Lightning Bug and Discovery. We're so excited for this new space that we're going to be moving into here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so I was on staff for 9 years at Discovery as well, and while Tony Salva, the founding pastor of Discovery, hired me and gave me the title of office manager in a new church, that's really just a title, because you really just do whatever needs to be done. So I did manage the office, but I also paid bills and led small groups and organized events and volunteers, and really just whatever needed to be done. And then 11 years ago, I left and went to work with my father as a holistic financial advisor.
Yeah, and a few years after that, I joined Kristen. I was on staff here also for 13 years, and before joining her as a financial advisor also. And man, I have to tell you, maybe Matt and Todd and Travis and Alex and Kate don't get to tell you guys this, but some crazy stuff happens to you when you're a pastor. Can I tell them the airplane stories?
I mean, it's on video. They can edit it out.
Right, yeah. Edit this if you have to, right? Yeah, but we were, back in the day, when I was a pastor here, we got on an airplane one time. I don't even remember where I was going to, or I don't even remember if you were, wherever.
I think it was our honeymoon.
Was it our honeymoon? Whatever it was, we were on an airplane, And I was talking to the woman next to me. We got into this conversation because it always happens when you sit next to the talker on the airplane. Well, I sat next to her and she got into this big conversation about church. You know, she wanted to hear about our church and what we did. She was very involved in her church. We were talking about, you know, small group philosophies and neighborhood groups and church stuff, all these kind of things. And then in the middle of flight, we hear this loud bang happen. And then we start like in the middle of turbulence and people on the plane started freaking out. I mean, they were so scared and so nervous. And a couple minutes later, the captain gets over the loudspeaker. This is your captain speaking. Just wanted to let you know we have lost an engine and we'll be making an emergency landing in Rochester, Minnesota. Please don't panic. And of course, you know, people panicked, right? People started freaking out, right? A couple minutes later, captain gets back on. This is your captain speaking. Just wanted to let you know the crew will be going over crash landing procedures with you, and we will be met on the runway with first responders, fire trucks, emergency vehicles. Please don't be alarmed. Don't panic. And at that point, people are crying, right? I don't know. Remember they had those phones on the plane back then? They might have been calling their loved ones, whatever it was. A couple minutes later, or while that's all happening, this woman that was sitting behind us must have overheard my conversation with the woman next to me about church and that I was a pastor and all this kind of stuff, because she stands up on the plane, kind of shimmies up on her seatbelt, and she's like, "It's okay, everybody. We're not going to die. This guy's a pastor," and points right at me. And I feel like the plane got quiet and everybody kind of looked at me. I didn't know what to say. So I just kind of turned back and looked at her and was like, "Pastors die too, lady."
Super encouraging.
I didn't know what to say. Well, needless to say, the plane landed. We did not crash at all. And yes, fire trucks and ambulances met us out there, but everybody just walked off the plane just fine, and we were all okay.
That's funny, Brian, but we should probably focus on what we're here to talk about today.
Okay.
And that's the move. We're in chapters 13 and 14 of the Exodus story. We've been following this over the last couple weeks, and the story of Moses and the Israelites who have been slaves in Egypt for hundreds of years. If you remember, Moses was born an Israelite, had Hebrew parents, but then he was raised by Egyptian royalty. And then God called him to be the leader of the Israelite people, to lead them out of slavery in Egypt. They've been in slavery a long time, hundreds of years, and they're finally at the point where they're ready to make the big move.
Yeah, and reading this story kind of got me thinking about like moving houses. And Chris and I have only moved a couple of times, but you know, when you move, you kind of get nostalgic a little bit, right? It's a little bit, at least for me, I tend to be a little bit emotional. It's a little bit of an emotional experience for me. Like I walked around, I remember after we moved stuff out, and I looked at the fire pit where we had so many great, you know, gatherings with our friends, and the table where we had Christmas breakfast together. And, you know, I looked at the marks on the wall with our kids as they were growing in height. It can be kind of an emotional experience.
For sure. And then there's the physical work of moving.
Yeah.
You know, the practical side. And that's asking people you love, "Hey, can I ruin your day by helping me move?" But don't worry, we're going to have beer and pizza. That's going to make it all better.
Straight bribery,
Right?
beer and pizza, yeah.
So about 7 years ago, Brian and I moved from Cranberry to Mars. We asked a lot of you guys to help us move. And I think it might have been one of the craziest moves ever. We had 4 little kids. We packed up our old house. We put it. You guys helped us to pack it into a U-Haul. Drove to Mars, but we did not take into account the steepness of our new driveway. So if you've been, if you've been to our new house, you know how steep our driveway is. So as Brian pulled the truck in, the front wheels went up, and all of a sudden the back got just stuck in the road. And everyone who was there to help us unload was already parked at the top of the driveway, so they couldn't leave, they couldn't go anywhere. And it took us about 2 hours to get it unstuck. Brian always says this is the day that he realized that all of our neighbors were more of a man than he ever was.
Wait, I don't think I actually said that.
Agree to disagree. Anyway, one of our neighbors pulled up in this Nissan truck, drove through our neighbor's yard, hooked up his truck with a rope to our U-Haul, and pulled it up the driveway. So finally, we get it up to the top. Everyone helped us unload, and then we got it stuck on the way back down. But I had a conversation with Liam Brennan a little bit later, and he told us that it was by far the worst move he had ever been involved in. And he swore off helping anybody move ever again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so true. And it, kind of relating it to the series. In this series, we've been watching the people of God kind of make their move, right, from being slaves in Egypt to the Promised Land. And we've kind of held up this book of Exodus as a mirror to our lives and to where we're at as a church and where we're at as individuals. And you kind of, if you remember the story last week, Todd was talking about the plagues and kind of all these plagues that were sent to Pharaoh and the Egyptian people to try to get them to let God's people, the Israelites, go so they could go to the Promised Land. And finally, kind of after all these different plagues, Pharaoh was finally like, dude, get these Israelites out of here. I don't want to have anything to do with these people anymore. And just to give you kind of like a little bit of perspective of how long the Israelites had been slaves, they had been slaves for 430 years. Like, perspective check. We have only been a country for like 244 years or something like that. I mean, it's just phenomenal how long they were slaves. So finally, the Israelites get up and they get out of there. And that's kind of where we're at today. Exodus 13 and 14. They end up kind of wandering in the desert for a little bit. We're not exactly sure how long it is. But at some point during that wandering, Pharaoh changes his mind. And he's like, you know what? Life was pretty good having all those people do all the work for us, where we didn't have to do the work. So we kind of want them back. So he got his armies together and he went and he started chasing down the Israelite people again. And it's in this moment where the Israelites kind of see Pharaoh and the Egyptian army coming up on them. And they have this moment where they're kind of like, Moses, it wasn't so bad back there. Like, we had food on our table and a roof over our head. Yeah, we had jobs, maybe, slavery, whatever. We're not the best jobs, but at least we had something to do. And they started kind of reflecting on their past. And look, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not necessarily bad to kind of look back at where you've been. In fact, that's kind of part of our assignment today. And as we look at this Exodus story as a mirror for our lives, that's kind of one of the first things we want to look at.
Yeah, so one of the instructions we can learn from this story is just to remember where we came from. Because Bryan and I are officially the longest standing members of Discovery.
Yeah, that's code word for like old. It's true.
Yeah, well, we've both been on staff for about 10 years, and Matt thought it would just be fun for us to share some of our greatest moments from Discovery's past. For some of you, this might bring back some great memories. For some of you, you might just be all new, but don't tune out, because part of what makes Discovery what it is today is the past. Our church has been through a lot in our 18-year history. Some of you might not know this, but we actually started a movie theater in Cranberry Township. That was in 2003. We moved to the Regional Learning Alliance in 2006, bought land at the intersection of 228 and Myoma Road in 2011, sold that land, and then bought this building in 2020, right? So throughout the life of this church, a lot of things have changed, but some things haven't changed at all.
Yeah, I mean, when we started Discovery, we wanted to have in the DNA of this place that we were going to be a church that was always inviting others to join us in this journey. Didn't matter where you were at, how far from God you were, it didn't matter. We started Discovery, and it continues to be, to this day, a place of inviting and us being inviters. Back when we started, it was all about, we had sports teams that we would invite people to, and like deck hockey teams and softball teams and soccer teams and volleyball teams. I mean, all sorts of stuff.
Is bowling a sport?
Bowling is kind of a sport. We had a bowling league at Discovery. In fact, I have a Discovery bowling shirt with my name on it, and it's pretty awesome. But yeah, we had all that stuff, and those of you that know me know I love to party too. So we had tons of parties. We had pancake parties and 80s nights and murder mystery and Easter extravaganza and all sorts of fun stuff. St. Patrick's Day parties and all kinds of just awesome parties. And we did some crazy stuff too. Tony was the founding pastor and myself was the associate pastor. We had all these bets that we would have, and we would kind of pick on each other a little bit. And we'd do these football bets of Steelers versus Broncos. He was a big Steelers fan. He was a big Broncos fan. I was a big Steelers fan. And especially playoff games, there was a lot on the line. One particular playoff game was, again, Steelers versus Broncos, and the Steelers won, and there was a tattoo on the line. A real tattoo. So I called up news organizations, and Tony had to go get, to this day, he has a Steeler tattoo on his arm. Like all the news stations were there. They were interviewing us. I mean, it was just...
Would you have gotten that tattoo?
Well, we don't need to know if I would have gotten that tattoo because the Steelers didn't lose. And then there was the time I lost and had to get an orange spray tan.
Oh my God.
I mean, that was horrible. It happened to be my kid's birthday also. And so the bet was that the loser had to get a really bad orange spray tan. And like I said, kid's birthday. And so we went to Ichiban that night for dinner. And this picture lives in it. Ichiban takes the pictures and then puts them on their wall. I don't know how long it was on there, but this picture was on the Ichiban wall for a very long time, unfortunately for me. But we did crazy stuff. But one of my favorite things that we ever did was we lived out my childhood and made a 90s boy band. We made a straight up boy band where we had a music video, we had a song, we had a dance and choreography. I mean, to this day, that video, the music video from our Smooths band is on YouTube somewhere, and I have the secret link for it. So if you want to see that video, you send me a personal Facebook or Snap tweet or whatever it is the kids use these days, and I'll get you that video.
He would actually love to share this video with you. So if you want to make Brian's day, like just send him a Facebook or an Instagram message. He would just be thrilled to share this
True
with
story.
you.
Yeah.
But there was also some of our kids' favorite events, and Kid Quest was one of them. Kid Quest was, if you're not familiar, kind of a vacation Bible school, but we always tried to make it above the top, over the top. So our kids would go with Brian. We had to actually rent a park because we didn't have a building, right? So maybe we can do this in our new building, but we would go to this park and my kids would go early to set up, and Brian was always some kind of weird character. I think he was like jumping Dr. Jippy one year.
That's
or
right. Yeah.
Professor Kazoon one year, but our kids absolutely loved that. Believe it or not, my kids actually also loved helping set up and tear down at Discovery. Now that might be partly because my mom just gave them free access to her credit card and the vending machines, but also they just loved coming and hanging out, and there was other kids there, the Smedleys and the Harrington kids, and they just absolutely loved it. But speaking of setting up and tearing down, do you realize that for every Sunday for the past 17 years, we've set up or torn down in some way, shape, or form? We towed trailers back and forth from storage units with sound equipment in children's classrooms. There were times when nobody would show up to let us in the building, and we'd have to call and somebody'd have to come, or times when the trailers broke down. There were times when the locks on the trailer froze and we couldn't get in them, so we were trying to figure out how to get in. And then when we actually would get in, especially back in the movie theater days, the theaters in Cranberry, not the new ones with stadium seating, but the ones with the big slant and at the front. So we'd get in there and we'd have to sweep up popcorn and gummy bears and roll out carpets just to have a clean place for our kids to do classes.
Yeah, I mean, setting up and tearing down for 17 years, we sometimes say that, we were reading the story and we're like, hey, look, I know the Israelites maybe wandered the desert for 40, but I feel like that's nothing on setting up and tearing down for 17 years. And look, for 17 years, we would invite people to Discovery, and some people would tell us, and I know this is true because probably some of you experience this, they would tell us, when you're a real church and have a real building, then we'll come to Discovery. Well, guess what? That day is finally fast approaching for all of us. But look, we've had some really, I would say, impactful moments that we experienced here at Discovery. I mean, hundreds of people have been baptized through this church, and 3 or 4 of our kids have been baptized in this church. And we had to get real creative with baptisms. We've done them in people's pools. There was one time we did it in the hot tub at our old house, and there were so many people on our deck that our deck actually collapsed. Now, you're laughing. It wasn't like a 2-story deck where people were falling, 10 feet, 20 feet or anything like that. It was just like 2 or 3 feet off the ground, but still it was a crazy experience, and it was kind of fun to experience something like that. Or how about this? Did you know that Discovery has sent 2 missionaries overseas to be overseas missionaries? The Snyders and the Yemviks have both gone to El Salvador and lived there as missionaries. John and Danielle are still there as full-time missionaries in El Salvador. John was a IT guy at UPMC, had a very successful job. Jake Yemvik was an engineer at Eaton, and sold everything here, moved their families to El Salvador, and they kind of took the DNA of Discovery with them to El Salvador, which is really cool. And Discovery, to this day, still has a really tight partnership with John and Danielle in El Salvador and what they're doing. And I have to tell you, if you want to experience something that's truly life-changing, when things open back up, rumor is Discovery wants to take another trip down there. When things open back up, do it. Take the trip to El Salvador, and that'll be, truly life-changing for you.
Yeah. How about the Sunday morning where people showed up and it had snowed like 2 inches, and that was the Sunday morning we asked them to take off their shoes and leave them behind to give them to people that needed them. It was really impactful morning. I know some of our kids gave up their shoes, and there was one woman in particular that we talked to that morning who said it was just kind of made a huge difference because she gave away her favorite pair of boots, and she realized that how much stuff meant to her, and she'd never realized that before. So it just made a really big difference in her life.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many lives have been changed by this place, and maybe you're one of those, countless people who've had, maybe experienced a loved one that has died and got this kind of, be with you in that moment, or birth of a child, or weddings, all kinds of stuff. But I got to tell you, probably one of the most impactful moments to me personally happened at A Night to Remember. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with A Night to Remember. It's this giant red carpet gala that we do for people with special needs. I call it a prom on steroids. It's just a huge event with tuxedos and limos and all dinner and dancing and all this fun stuff. But while we were there, I met this guy by the name of Tim, him and his mom at the tuxedo fitting for A Night to Remember. And his mom told me, Tim's super excited about Night to Remember. This is going to be his first time there. And this was several years ago. This is going to be his first time there, and he can't wait to come. And the night of the event came, and, I got to announce Tim's name, and he walked down the red carpet, and everybody's cheering for him. And it's this great moment. A couple minutes later, we had a little break in the action, and his mom came up to me, and she was crying hard, like bawling. And my first thought was, oh no, what happened to Tim? Did he have a seizure? Did he get sick? Did he fall? Is he scared? So I asked her, she's crying, and I said, hey, is everything okay? What happened to Tim? She said, Bryan, you didn't tell me it was all this. She said, you didn't tell me it was all of this. She said, this event changed our lives. And I thought, oh, she's kind of caught up in the moment, she's speaking in hyperbole. Then she went on to tell me the story. She said, 3 years ago on this very day, I'll never forget the date, that year was April 24th. She said 3 years ago on April 24th, her son was on a bus full with other special needs kids. And the bus was in Evans City, and that bus got hit by a train in Evans City. And she said she received a call, from the bus company saying, hey, there's been an accident. Your son was on a bus that got hit by a train. We don't really have any other information for you this time. And she said she experienced panic like she's never felt before. Driving to the scene of the bus accident, she didn't know if her son was dead or alive. She didn't know, she knew if he was injured that he couldn't communicate with first responders because he wasn't really verbal with his autism at all. He was nonverbal. And she just didn't know. She got to the scene of the accident, and again, the first responders there couldn't tell her much. They said, here are the hospitals we took injured people to. You can go check those hospitals and see if you can connect with your son. Eventually, she did find her son at the hospital. He was injured, but not too seriously. But she started to say that every year on April 24th after that happened, she kind of relived that day. And she would be struck by panic leading up to that day and even on the day of. And it was a very difficult day for her, that April 24th. And then she said, this day on that year, Night to Remember was on April 24th. She said, this has changed our lives. Now when I think about April 24th, it's not going to be about my son, getting on that bus, being hit by a train. She said, it's going to be my son living his best life, walking the red carpet. And in that moment for me, it was kind of like an aha moment, realizing that, what we do as individuals can really change people's lives. We can have an impact. Maybe what we do is not seen by, hundreds of people or not, but what if you did for one person what you wish you could do for everyone? And I think that's kind of a big takeaway for us.
Yeah, I know how much Tim's story impacted you. There have really been so many impactful moments like that here at Discovery. Of course, we can't go over every single one of them, but as we look back, we see how far we've come as a church, and there's a lot of great memories. But we don't want to be like the Israelites, just looking back and remembering the past and wishing we could go back there. Because quite honestly, we probably don't remember all the bad things. We only remember the good things. But we kind of need to look forward at the exciting things that God has ahead of us.
Yeah, and look, I don't envy the job of Matt and Todd and Alex and Travis and Kate right now. I speak from experience when I say leading a church is really difficult. Let alone throw in there, a global pandemic and moving a church from one location to another. I can see the stress of all this that it's causing on Todd with his hair. I'm assuming it's whatever he's going through with the church. But
I think you're just jealous. Todd, I like your hair. I think.
Maybe jealous. I don't know.
Anyway, back to the Israelites. So they look back thinking about how great things used to be. And I think we can learn from them that we need to appreciate where we're going. Bryan and I have been talking a lot about this lately. We're really excited about the direction that Discovery's headed. While Matt said a couple weeks ago, methods might change, the goal is still the same. The DNA is still the same. The goal is still to reach the community, to reach out to you guys, to reach people who haven't even come yet. So whether that's Heather talking a couple weeks ago about being able to come to the bonfire, or meal packing events, or a night to remember, 2 18-hole putt-putt golf courses. There's just so many opportunities, and what we're still doing is we're still throwing parties and we're still inviting people in. I'm so excited for my kids that there's going to be a place to do youth group, where they can come, they can invite their friends, that there's a place to host community events and soccer banquets. And really excited that we can take all the energy that we've previously put into setting up and tearing down and putting it into serving our community. More fun, less work.
Yeah, and I feel like I can say this. It is not Todd's job or Matt's job or Kate's job or anybody else's job, Alex's, Travis, anybody's job to fill up this place. It is our job. And over the next 10 or 12 months, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be coming here for the first time. And it is our job to make them feel welcome and invite them in. We have to serve generously. We have to be willing to give generously. We have to put, like Matt said a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, we have to put our shoes on and be ready to get to work, like Matt challenged us to do a couple of weeks ago. Discovery has been and always will be a place that is all about inviting and involving. Discovery will always be a safe place for people to come and experience God together. Whether you have questions about him, you're doubting him, it doesn't matter. This is a safe place to come experience God. And look, a lot of things are changing, right? The building's changing. The people are changing. The methods are changing. But the DNA of this place always has been and always will be the same. The story of the Israelites, they're kind of looking back at their history and needing a little nudging. This isn't just about us as a church corporately, though. There's some personal applications, too. What does it mean for us in our journey? I think we can ask ourselves the question, what do we need to leave behind today? What is it that we need to leave behind? What are those things that we are maybe holding on to a little too tightly, not letting go of? Maybe, is it something about Discovery? You don't like this, you don't like that, or maybe this is just a reminder that it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about our comfort and what I like. The DNA of this place always has been, always will be. We're going to do whatever we can to pull down the barriers for people to coming to know God. That's it. That's it. Or maybe you're having some doubt in yourself that you're serving or you're giving will make a difference. I'm here to tell you my interactions with Tim and his family at A Night to Remember changed that for me. Maybe you're not doing something that everybody sees, but what is that one thing you can do, that thing you can do for one person that you wish you could do for everyone?
Yeah. And I think we can also ask ourselves the question of what do we need to embrace to move Discovery forward as a church? For some of us, it might just be embracing change. None of us like change. But let's embrace it. Let's embrace loving our neighbors, inviting people in. Maybe we need to embrace serving or giving. Maybe some of us have used this time to kind of, during the pandemic, to step back from the church. And now's really the time for us all to step back in. We are all needed now more than ever. So let us be perfectly candid with you. When Bryan stepped down from the ministry 5 or 6 years ago, we really thought long and hard about whether or not we should stay at Discovery. Whether it was the best thing for Discovery, whether it was the best thing for our family. And over again, we kind of just kept coming to the same answer. And that's a church isn't about any one man. It's not about the staff. It's really about God, what God's doing through this church to reach the community, to reach out to people who have never heard of him before. And honestly, we've been behind the curtain of ministry, and I can tell you, I can assure you that no pastors are perfect. Staff aren't perfect. They're not perfect in this church. They're not perfect in any church that you would go to. But while we don't think that Matt, Todd, Travis, Alex, and Kate are perfect, well, Kate maybe the closest.
Kate's the closest, right, probably, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we do think they are a great fit for Discovery and where Discovery's heading. It's both challenging and exciting times right now.
It is, and we're so excited about the future of this place. And I know that Kristen and I are, in our family, we're committed to being a part of Discovery moving forward, both in serving and financially. And we're excited for more trips to El Salvador. We've been talking about it for years, about taking our whole family to El Salvador someday. We're excited about Night to Remember to happen again. We're excited to have a space for a youth group. We're excited that young families can have a play place for them to invite their friends to. We're excited that we have a kitchen where maybe people with special needs can come and learn how to make a cup of coffee, or learn how some life skills that can get them a job, or to make it so they can live on their own. We're excited to have a place where we can do weddings someday, and maybe even for our own children, and maybe funerals one day, and birthday parties and business meetings for local businesses, a place to do meal packing and community service events. And we've always loved this outward focus of Discovery, and it takes all of us playing our part to help Discovery as we move from kind of where we are to this amazing place that we see for us in the future. And it's never been about a building. It's always been about creating more opportunities and less barriers for us to invite others in. And our hope today, our prayer today, is that you'll join us and our family as we kind of embrace this vision moving forward.
I love hearing about the history of Discovery. The giant faith steps that were taken by people way before I even moved here 3.5 years ago. And I love where we're going, and I'm so excited. I know Bryan and Kristen are excited. I hope you're excited as well. Since day one, Discovery Every Weekend Experience has participated in communion. Discovery didn't start it. Jesus actually did, and it points back to even the Old Testament. It's this meal, this moment of remembering. And Jesus says, hey, grab some juice, grab some bread, and take it and remember what I did. Remember that Jesus, God in the flesh, came down, died for you and for me, and defeated death, so that nothing would stand in between us and God, that relationship could be restored because of Jesus dying and coming back to life. So if you're at home, grab some bread, grab some juice, and during this next worship song, take it and remember what Jesus has done. When you're ready, I invite you to sing, and sing loud.
empty grave, evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away, 'cause of you, Jesus. See the cross, the empty grave, evidence is endless. All my sin rolled away, 'cause of you, Jesus. Oh, I see the evidence of the goodness all of my life, all of my life. I see the promises of fulfillment all of my life, all of my life. I see